Hello, fourth grade. Today we're going to be continuing our social studies chapter. We are now on lesson 5, how do people of different backgrounds come together to form our country? In this lesson, you're going to be explaining how immigrants in the United States keep cultural traditions alive, um, describing why cultural celebrations are important for immigrants in the United States, and how Americans learn about different ethnic traditions. There's also going to be a writing activity at the end. We are on page 38 inside your workbook. Here we have an image of a famous statue in the United States. If you know the name of the statue, go ahead and leave a comment on Google Classroom for extra credit. And if you know why this statue is important, you can go ahead and add that information as well. This is a famous monument located in New York City. It is called the Statue of Liberty, and it is famous for welcoming immigrants into the United States. Let's go ahead and get started with our reading. We're on page 40, and let's go through the inspect to make sure that we read all of the directions. So first we have to read the title, and you have to write, what do you think you'll learn from this text? You can go ahead and write your answers down here. You're going to be annotating your text, where you'll be circling the words you want to learn more about, underlining the clues that tell you where do immigrants come from, what impacts do immigrants have, and what struggles do immigrants have. So these are the 3 main questions that you should be answering down here. You can also underline it to show your sources, because we always make sure to find information from our text. We are going to begin the reading. And our title, we already know, is Welcoming Immigrants.
The United States has a history of immigrants coming from different countries at different times. Immigrants have come to America for a variety of reasons. They may have looked to escape hardships in their home country or to find new opportunities America offers. New immigrants bring different cultures to the community. Throughout America's history, groups of immigrants have formed their own communities and neighborhoods to help keep alive customs from their native or home countries. These communities allow people from different backgrounds to experience the foods, customs, and celebrations of people from all over the world. America has a mixed history with welcoming immigrants. They have not always been accepted by all communities. Some people dislike or distrust immigrants because they think they are different. This is called prejudice, and it has been around from the early years of America, and it continues today.
So here on the bottom of the page, we have an image of Ellis Island. And from the caption, we can see that it says it was a point of entry for many immigrants in the 1900s. In order to enter the United States, you would have to go through Ellis Island, go through an inspection in order for them to check whether you were healthy, your family was healthy, if you came with family, and you would be writing down your name as well. We're going to continue to the next page.
The poem, "The New Colossus," can be found on a plaque on the inside wall of the base of the Statue of Liberty. The poem gives a message of hope and welcome to immigrants coming to the United States.
And now we're going to find out why the poem is so important.
The new Colossus, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed, sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. "Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp," cries she with silent lips. "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me, I lift my lamp beside the golden door."
This poem was by Emma Lazarus, and it was originally set at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. So from there, we're going to be rereading for whatever details you can find that the author included to help you learn more about how immigrants have impacted communities. And then you're going to be underlining how the poem, The New Colossus, who should America accept as immigrants, based on this primary source. The last thing you're going to be doing on these 2 pages is think of what ways immigrants have added to your community. You can go ahead and write it right down here as well, or if you still have space in my notes area, you can go ahead and write it there. When you're ready, we can begin page 42. We are now on page 42, where we're going to be reading the instructions first to make inferences. And making inferences means to use text evidence or clues in the text to help draw conclusions for what the author might not state directly. So what the author is saying without saying it directly to you. They might not say that the sky is blue, but they might be talking about how the sky looks beautiful today and it's a perfectly clear day. They might have already implied it. From there, readers can apply what they already know about the topic to the evidence or clues in a text to figure out information that's not stated directly. But the first thing you have to do is read through the text at least once all the way through to help you understand what the text is about. Then you're going to be looking for clues or evidence that's in the text. And a way to find that out is what facts, data, or details does the author provide about that topic. Then you're going to be adding knowledge from what you already know that relates to these clues. So from what information that you know personally to the information that you got from the text, what can you combine? What can you use from those 2 pieces of information? The 4th thing you're going to be doing is thinking about the connections between your information and the information in the text. And then from there, what can you infer based on the evidence and what you already know? So the first thing that we're going to be doing this on is based on the text that we read. And the text clues talks about how in the poem it says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. What do you know about these, about immigrants inside the United States? And then the last thing you're going to be doing is what can you infer from what you read about immigrants in the United States and what this means compared to the text? And we can definitely show our sources because we have information here talking about how America treated immigrants. And while sometimes America did welcome them with open arms, sometimes they didn't. So it wasn't always a good thing, according to different times in America, to have immigrants. And from there, you can write down what you know from your reading and then the inferences based on this poem. So combining those 2 pieces of information, what does that tell you? What does it mean when it says in the poem, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses? If inside your text, it tells you that sometimes they didn't want immigrants and sometimes they did. Why do you think that that might be important? Because that is exactly what you're going to be writing for here. What can you figure out between the poem and from what you know from the text? Once you're done with page 42, we're going to get started on page 43, where you're going to be reading pages 48 to 55 to answer the next 3 pages, 43, 44, and 45. And the things that we're going to be looking for from the text clues are talking about how most Americans are immigrants or descendant of immigrants, how each state, city, community, and family may have different heritage in addition to their American heritage. And the last thing we're going to be looking out for in the text is how everyone in the United States can celebrate our country no matter what their heritage is or what country they originally come from. So from here, this is where you are going to be filling in what you know about these 3 topics. Then later on, you're going to be using the information that you get from the text, plus what you know to figure out what are some things that you understand that the text talks about, that you know about, and then you can combine the 2. Let's go ahead and get started in your textbook on page 48. This is page 48 in your textbook. And the title for this lesson is How Do People of Different Backgrounds Come Together to Form Our Country? Our title here is Where We Come From.
The story of America in large part reflects the diverse peoples of America, how we arrived and how we came together. The celebration of so many different cultures and the uniting as one people make America unique in the world. Most Americans are immigrants or descendants of immigrants. Some immigrants came to America to experience success. Some came to escape horrible situations in their native countries. For example, in the mid-1800s, many Irish people immigrated to America because the potato crop failed for several years in a row. There was little to eat and people were starving. They fled Ireland to come to America in hopes of surviving and making a better life. Not everyone who came to America was an immigrant. Between the 1600s and the mid-1800s, many Africans were forced by Europeans to come to America as enslaved people. Enslaved people were bought and sold as if they were goods. They were forced to work, treated brutally, and had no freedom. The Civil War was fought to end slavery and extend freedom to enslaved people. Afterwards, challenges to equality and freedom for African Americans continued despite successes.
We're going to go ahead and read page 49.
Native Americans were already living here when Europeans arrived. As more Europeans spread across the continent, these original Americans were forced to move off land their ancestors had lived on for generations. America has both struggled and succeeded in bringing different groups together. Learning about different heritages can help people better understand each other.
The title for this part is called Honoring Heritage. We're going to read the caption for the photo after we're done with the reading.
What is American culture? Each state, city, community, and family may have a different heritage in addition to their American culture. What they all value, though, is honoring the traditions of their past, whatever they may be. Each ethnic community has ways to pass on the culture of their ancestors or home countries. They may invite other Americans to share or participate in their traditions. Different Native American groups honor their culture through traditional arts, celebrations, and gatherings. A powwow is one of these gatherings. People may tell traditional stories, learn songs, or dance together. Telling traditional stories plays a key role connecting the past to the present and future in Native American communities. Through the generations, they have told these tales to teach their children about the world around them, their beliefs, and their history.
Here we have an image of a Yurok storyteller sharing tales with the children. And we have a fire going as well as what seems like a drum. We're going to start page 51 with Juneteenth celebrations and why they're important.
On June 19, 1865, Union soldiers landed in Galveston, Texas to announce and enforce the end of slavery in Texas. The late arriving news, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, brought celebrations from enslaved people. And the following year, African Americans began the Juneteenth holiday to honor this important day. The word Juneteenth was formed as a combination of June and 19th. Over the years, Juneteenth celebrations spread across the country with parades, festivals, and food to mark the day. Today, Juneteenth is the most prominent holiday celebrating the emancipation of African Americans from slavery.
And here we have a photo of singers at a Juneteenth celebration in Tucson, Arizona. We are on page 52 with cultures in communities.
communities throughout the United States and world celebrate culture. They have different cultural holidays, celebrations, and traditions that represent different places and beliefs. These cultural celebrations are important because they reflect the values and traditions of a community. The community is strengthened by these celebrations, whether its members are new to the country or have lived here all their lives. Many Chinese immigrants and Chinese Americans celebrate the Chinese New Year, or the Spring Festival. The Chinese calendar follows the phases of the moon. The beginning of the year starts in late January or early February. In Chinese culture, people celebrate ancestors and family at the beginning of the year. On the first day of the holiday, there is a parade and a fireworks display. Each of the next 15 days is dedicated to different ancestors. On the last day, there is a lantern festival. The Chinese believe the light from the lantern helps guide spirits home. Mexican communities celebrate Mexican Independence Day on September 16. It marks the day the Mexican Revolution against Spain started. In 1810, Father Miguel Hidalgo asked for support from fellow Mexicans against Spanish rule. After a long war with Spain, Mexico won its independence in 1821. Today, Mexican Independence Day is celebrated all over Mexico with parades and parties that feature traditional foods and dancing. Cities are decorated with the colors of the Mexican flag, red, white, and green. Many communities in the United States also celebrate Mexican Independence Day. Many Hmong from Southeast Asia now live in Minnesota. They fled the war in their home countries in 1979 and immigrated to St. Paul, Minnesota. Today, they continue the tradition of celebrating the Hmong New Year. Since 1979, people in Minnesota have gathered to celebrate the holiday with traditional Hmong dances, music, and crafts. Families make dishes and plates in styles similar to those found in their home countries.
So here we have 3 cultures, and we can see from the photos that they celebrate their celebrations very differently. We have the photo for this group, and it says money is being put into red and gold envelopes called laisi as gifts during the Chinese New Year. During the Mexican Independence Day, we have dancers celebrating, and down here, people at Hmong Festival in Minnesota are buying or selling food. We are on page 54. Communities come together.
Everyone in the United States can celebrate our country no matter what their heritage is or what country they originally come from. Communities hold their own unique celebrations as well as celebrate the national American holidays. On holidays like the 4th of July and Memorial Day, banks and some businesses are closed so their workers can celebrate at home. On these holidays, Americans gather in towns and watch parades or fireworks displays. They wave American flags and listen to marching bands that play patriotic music. They celebrate the common beliefs of the United States, just as they celebrate and share the holidays and beliefs of their heritage.
Then we have unity in diversity.
The United States is a country formed by people from all over the world. In the past and today, different groups of people in America have at times struggled to understand each other. Learning about different groups can help people unite and come together. People can both share their traditions with others and create new American traditions.
Down here we have the Latin phrase e pluribus unum is on the Great Seal of the United States. In English, this phrase means one out of many, one. It represents the United States as a single country made up of people from many countries. On the seal, the American eagle is shown with its wings spread, talking about this image right here. The eagle is holding an olive branch and a bundle of arrows. The shield is in front of the eagle and has 13 red and white stripes. Why do you think that information would be important? And why do you think having an olive branch would be important? If you know, or if you have an idea, go ahead and leave a comment. And if you want to stop and check if you understood, answer this question. How do people celebrate living in America? What are some ways that you just read about over here? We are on page 56. And going back to our essential question, think about the chapter 1 essential question. How does America use its strengths and face its challenges? In your other pages from last week's lesson, 1.4, one of the questions was talking about different things that the government does that help strengthen America, including creating places like national parks or places where people can go to learn more about the United States. And a question that was trying to be focused on was asking you, why would these places and why is it that these types of things would strengthen America? So this goes back to the main chapter's question. We're going to go back to your workbook pages, and you're going to be filling in these boxes with what you know from the text and what you can understand based on those, based on that information. Here, we know that most Americans are immigrants or descendants of immigrants. And we saw that inside the chapter with how many different groups come from all over the world. We saw at least 3 different groups. And what do you know about that you could say also connects to what the text was saying? And you're going to be writing your inferences down here. Now you have each state, city, community, and family may have a different heritage in addition to their American culture. You might be familiar with how someone might have a cultural celebration, and then they might also celebrate different holidays inside the United States. And then they might have their own religious ceremonies separately. All of those things are part of their heritage. And so what could you say about that you could write down here and also connects to both of those things over here for your inferences that aren't exactly being stated inside your first chapter or lesson 1.5? For the last part, it's asking you, everyone in the United States can celebrate our country no matter what their heritage is or what country they originally come from. What do you know about how the United States used to be before it became more mixed? What do you think it was like? Do you think that everyone used to be able to celebrate their own heritage? Or do you think that that was something that was pretty rare before and that maybe people before weren't allowed to celebrate their heritage? Why do you think that would be important for the text to say? And what do you know about it from your workbook pages that could tell you more about both of them for your inferences? Once you're done with all 3 of these, make sure that you write it in your neatest handwriting and complete sentences. Then we can begin page 44. So first, you're going to be reading the instructions where you're reviewing your research based on the information you've gathered. What are different ways people celebrate their own histories and backgrounds, as well as America's history? You're going to be writing and citing evidence to prove that, with the question being, how can people honor their specific heritage and come together with people from different backgrounds to form a strong community? Use examples from the text to explain your response. You saw inside the text that different groups could come together to celebrate other groups' heritage and see how they celebrated their holidays or their events. Do you think that this makes people more separated? Or do you think that it helps people understand more about other cultures? If we're going to be using examples from the text, don't forget that you have lots of different groups that you read about. All of these are sources that you can talk about And you also have your vocabulary words to help you understand more about the text. Make sure to always cite your evidence. If you can put your page number next to it, even better, where you got that exact bit of information from. And when you're done with page 44, we're going to start on page 45, where you're going to be pulling it together, talking about the essential question that we kind of talked about at the end of the chapter, where it asks you, how is diversity of people important to the life in the United States? Do you think that the United States is just one type of people? Or do you think that the United States is made up of many different groups of people working together in order to help each other grow, prosper, and share with one another? What do you think the United States would be like if it was just one type of people, one heritage, one culture, and no one else having a different way of life or thinking a little bit differently for how they do things? So all of those things are part of diversity. Being able to have different opinions, being able to have different people from different backgrounds, all of that counts as reasons or ways that the United States is diverse. And think about why being diverse in the United States, or why the population being diverse in the United States would be important. Do you think that we should only have one type of people thinking, talking, or sharing ideas? Or do you think that everyone should be able to learn, grow, and understand different points of view? Why would that be important? Make sure that you're writing all three, at least three sentences, better if 4 or 5, on page 45 down here in your answer. And please make sure that it is written neatly. I will see you in your next lesson.